which represents G4AW, is also here on the line, and he gave us this opportunity to organize this here on the topic of geodata meets farm professionalization, because we had very interesting discussions with him on farm professionalization and of the synergies that can arise by combining services that Scope Insight provides on farmer professionalization together with geodata services. So we decided here on the webinar to explore and discuss these synergies with you. So G4AW, thank you very much for this opportunity. So to go to the next slide, as I already said, my name is Elina Arnoldi. I'm Business Development Manager at Scope Insight. So what does that mean? That means that I manage most of our partnerships and then also responsible for expanding and for growing. Please mute yourselves when you go. Background in banking. I used to work for Rabobank for 4 years in trade and commodity finance. Worked in the agricultural sector. Academic background in international business, finance, and development studies. I really have a business and finance mindset, but very strong heart and passion for development, and especially agricultural development. So at Scope I can combine these things very nicely. So I'm also very excited to give this webinar. I'm together with the CEO and founder of Scope Insight, Lucas Simons. He is sitting next to me, so he will also give a very short introduction.
Good morning, everybody. It's Lucas Simons here. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you so much. You have joined us in quite large numbers. Exciting, and we are quite confident that we have a very interesting webinar for you, where we also share some opportunities for you, and we're hoping to get some very interesting partnerships out of this. My name is Lucas Simons, as I already said. My mission in life is to come up with new concepts, new strategies that really have a structural impact, sustainable impact. I've done that for a very long time, for the last 17, 18 years in agriculture. I started as director of UTS in 2002, where I set up that organization as first UTS KP, then UTS certified, and now it's one of the largest certification programs in coffee, cocoa, and several other commodities. After that, I founded my own consultancy company, Foresight, where masters in turning complex sustainability challenges into market-driven opportunities. I'm founder of Scope Insight, which we'll talk about today. I'm the initiator of AMEA, which is an overarching function that brings together the community of practice of many things that we're also going to present today. And for those who want to know more about the strategies of market transformation, there's a book which we've presented 3 years ago, Changing the Food Game, which presents why agricultural markets fail and what you can do about it. So excited to be here. Thank you so much. I'll be talking in a couple of minutes a little bit about the background of Scope Insight, but over to you, Eileen.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lucas. Before we continue, I thought there's one more practical announcement. If you have any questions during the webinar, there are several ways to communicate with us. There's it on the right side of your screen, so you can send us messages if you would like. Please feel free to do this during the webinar. You can also raise your hand. There's a small hand icon as opposed to your name, but you can also just unmute yourself and ask us a question. I also always like to have it interactive. There will be definitely room for questions at the end of the webinar, but if you have a very useful contribution or question or comment, please feel free to make this during the webinar. So if you have any technical questions about the sound, so I see the sound is a bit far away and it drops. I hope it's better now. We're working on that. So please also start giving us this feedback. So as Lucas has already said, we were very happy and also inspired to see that there were so many applications to this webinar and so many different types of organizations also joining us to discuss this topic of geodata and farmer professionalization. And we would like to get to know you a bit better, but we also understand that there are a lot of people, of course, on the call, so it's possible to give the floor to everyone. So we are putting a small poll on the right side of the screen where you can indicate what type of work you are involved in, so we understand a bit better also on how this topic of farmer professionalization can be useful for you and organization. So I kindly request you to right side of your screen to enter this poll and also publish the results later to you. So you will also see them again on the right side of your screen. And I think it's also interesting to see between each other who is there and we are all working on. So what we learned so far also through G4L is that you are data innovators. So you see this enormous potential of geo-based information services working very hard on this. We have seen very interesting examples also being part of GeoW, where you are working on satellite services, providing weather information, advice on the use of fertilizer to farmers, combining this with microcredit, microinsurance, and really we saw innovative approaches and solutions based on geodata. And we also know you are working hard to build a sustainable business case for these type of systems. This, of course, keeping the end goal in mind, increasing farmer productivity, improving livelihoods, and enabling their access to finance. Having worked with a lot of service providers already for the past 8 years, we see that despite the hard work and the good progress in improving smallholder productivity, enabling their access to finance, and improving their livelihoods, there are a lot of challenges. For a lot of service providers, it's difficult to build a sustainable business case. It's difficult to scale successful innovations, and we see challenges in 5 different areas. We see that farmers are often not ready to adopt services. They're not professional enough. Efforts often are fragmented. We move a lot from project to project. It's hard to measure, but also prove impact to different stakeholders. And it's getting increasingly difficult to find sufficient funding and also to be cost efficient and to allocate resources efficiently. And last one, a challenge that we see that it's hard to find the right partners, to have like-minded partners that work in the same way and have an aligned vision. So how the journey of Scope Insight started 8 years ago is that, Lucas will tell more about this later, that we really started thinking, okay, how can we tackle these challenges? And what is the solution to these challenges? So farmers are ready, they are empowered to meet market requirements, to access your services, stakeholder interests are aligned, noses point in the same direction, they are working together based on a standardized approach. You tell your unique story based on standardized data, prove impact, reduce cost and risk, but also work together, most importantly, with partners that are like-minded and have a similar approach. So, webinar, we would really like to show how our unique and also proven approach to farmer professionalism can help you to address these challenges that you must recognize, and also to achieve these goals. Really believe that looking at farming as a business is a starting point to start addressing these challenges, because we see that if they are more professional, so if they are more mature, if they're able to manage their business better, they will also be able to increase their sustainability, be more productive, and also benefit from more business opportunities by accessing finance and other types of services. So we really want to tell you about Scope Insight, what we mean by professionalism, and also what we do, of course. So Lucas will a bit more about that later, to share some latest data insights, and also we're excited to discuss with you opportunities that we see that guys when combining geodata our services on farmer professionalism. And a point that we would like to show you at the end of the presentation, some of the mistakes that we have learned from and see recurring in the programs that we are implementing together with our partners on a global scale, and also what you can do about it. With that being said, I would like to give the floor back to Lucas, who will share a bit more about how he founded Scope Insight, his vision, and what we are doing as a company.
Thanks, Aline, and if you feel that this goes very fast, then you're right. We only have 45 minutes, and we appreciate your time and your busy agenda. So we wanna move through it as soon as possible, and also give you a lot of value while we present this. So Scope Insight, we started 8 years ago in 2010, actually. We are all about believing in farming as a business, but then it needs to be a professional business. But the question, of course, is how do you measure professionalism? What does it mean? And so what we have done, we've set ourselves on a mission to develop tools, assessment tools, that measure the level of business professionalism of a farm organization. And by that we mean how are they managing the most important success and fail factors of our organization as a business. And since we started, we have developed 5 different tools now. Also partners, we work a lot with IFC and World Bank, and we have developed a number of these assessment tools. And over the last 8 years, we have done over 1,800 assessments all over the world in more than 3 countries, in more than 25 different sectors. And we've created a model that is not only very scalable, but also applicable in all kinds of situations. Because, as you will see, good management is pretty generic. And so we have developed a tool that measuring the level of professionalism in a way that you can compare all these things together. Now, why is professionalism important? Because, as Aline already said, if you run your business in a professional way, in a profitable way, then the assumptions are that you will have higher productivity, that you will have better livelihoods, that you have, that you will be a job creator, that you will be more sustainable. Then, if you're more professional, you can also have more access to finance and access to inputs. And so, for us, these things, if we want to achieve these outcomes, then professionalism is the very key to deliver on those. But then, of course, how do you measure it, and how do you help farmers become more professional? So here we are. We have done over 1,800 assessments. Like I said, many different countries, many different sectors, and we have worked with many different organizations. You see here a selection of logos and companies that we've worked with. This is just a selection, and not just did we do 1,800 assessments, we have also trained about 419 to be exact. Assessors worldwide can execute these assessments, 30 countries, 24 sectors, and in total, through these 1,800 assessments, we have reached almost 5 million farmers. So that is a proof that the methodology that we've been applying is extremely scalable, it is cost efficient, and effective, as we will show. Now, if you're all curious that what it means to measure professionalism, and the model that you see in front of you is our mother model. It consists of 8 dimensions, 8 chapters, and then the 9th chapter, which is the financial performance, an outcome of good management. And so what you will see here is 8 dimensions, 4 of them internal, 4 of them external, outside in, and again the 9th one is financial performance. Very quickly, just to give you an idea what it means. Internal management, this has everything to do with the board, the management, the business cycle, the business planning. I would say #1 fail factor of many farm organizations if you don't get this right. Operations, what do they do in the field? Do they know how to produce good harvest? How to do that consistently of the right quality? Financial management, record keeping, do they know their cost price? Is the business actually recorded in the right way? And then sustainability, very important. How do they manage their natural and human resources? Are they able to manage it, set objectives, and reach those objectives? And then, very important as well, supply. Do they get the inputs, the right inputs at the right time? Do they know how to use them? Very important. We all the stories of bogus fertilizers, of not having the right seedlings. And as you can imagine, this will kill your business. Then besides, do you have access to markets? To whom? Do you have long-term contracts? Do you have multiple off-takers? Are you able to capture added value? Above external risks, the pests, droughts, and diseases, if you will, they are inherent to agriculture, but some farmer organizations are very good in handling them, and others are not, so you want to know about it. And then enablers. Are you part of a supporting structure to get the support you need, or are you pretty much alone and isolated? Again, this is very important information to have if you want to know how professional these farm organizations are. Now, what is unique about this? Because I'm pretty sure that most of you will say, well, yeah, this sounds very intuitive and very complete, but what we have done is that you'll see here, each of these chapters see a sub-score, a 4, 2.3, 3.5, etc. Now, how did we get to that? Every chapter is divided into sub-chapters, and every chapters have questions. And every question has a 1 to 5 score, an assessment, a rating, if you will. 5 being very good, plan, check, act, best in class. 1, the farm organization has no idea what you're talking about. And then 2, 3, 4 as different maturity levels in the middle. We have spelled out what it means to manage these success and fail factors, and that is all based on quite a serious effort. We have looked at maturity models from ISO, maturity management models, quality management systems. We have compared this with all of the leading sustainability standards out there. We've looked at curriculum on training on training farmers. We've done a lot of research on what makes cooperatives successful or fail, and what is the business aspect. We've compared that to other management models. We have looked at due diligence processes for banks, and for years and years of studying and improvement, this is the model that came out of it, which for us reflects very completely what professional business, what it means to be a professional business. Each subchapter has a score, and we're trying to use in person, and this eventually leads to an end score, in this case a 3.5 from 1 to 5. As you can imagine, that these management factors I just mentioned, they are generic. Although we understand very well that cocoa is different than coffee, is different than oil, is different than pangasius, but your business as such is pretty generic. And so despite some tweaking between countries, organizational types and sectors, measuring this leads to a benchmark score that you can apply. And so after having done 1,800 different assessments, you can imagine that we can now compare sectors together, countries together, we can compare programs together, we see waves of strengths, waves of weaknesses of a farm organization. Now, what is another element that makes this unique? This law creates detailed reports of farm organizations. We'll see in detail, sometimes 16 to 20 pages long, detailed insight of what the organization does well, strengths, and what they're not doing well, their weaknesses. I can compare that to others. Now, this information is extremely insightful, or should be insightful, I should add. Refer already to the 10 most common made mistakes, where we will end up this presentation, but should be very insightful and very informative to the question, how can I help farm organizations to become better? So it should inform capacity building program design. The other part is that this report and this assessment form has been designed in such a way that it covers about 80% of the due diligence information of financial institutions. Again, we have done a lot of research to that, and we're covering about 80%, so that if we can present them a selection of better scoring farm organizations, not only can we compare them to others and can help them with that selection, but we can also offer them a lot of the information they will be looking for. We're not replacing due diligence. They are responsible for their own due diligence, but we are a provider of the information that they will need for their own due diligence. Why not 100%, you might ask? Well, because there are some information in there that the bank should look at, and it's their sole responsibility. But 80% is there, and so by assessing the level of professionalism, using this to inform capacity building programs, and using this as a way to develop, to design, or to build track records of farm organizations as they move up, and to use it as a way to give a pipeline to financial institutions, input providers, service providers, while reducing costs, reducing risks, is what we believe will create a market. So it's a standardized approach, it's a highly scalable approach, it's universally applicable, it leads to cost efficiencies, it's market-led. This is what markets understand. I'll explain it to them. It's based on global standards and methodologies, and very important, it's a certification program where you're in or you're out, you're good or you're not good. It's a scoring model that promotes continuous improvement on the journey towards more professionalism. So there's a little bit of the background and the vision behind Scope and Sight. I hope this is clear, and happy to receive questions about this later, but Lean, back to you, because you're going to show us some data that actually proves that the correlation is very strong to what we're trying to prove.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas. And I already see some people asking questions about whether we can share recordings or we can share the slides. After the webinar, we will share the slides and we'll also share the recording with you. So this can be accessed, and you are also free to share this maybe with other team members or other organizations. So going back to the presentation, what we see is a lot of programs that we have implemented this approach in many different regions, in many different sectors. We are increasingly seeing evidence that professional farmers and their organizations is important if we want to achieve the outcomes that we've already discussed: more sustainability, more productivity, access to finance, improved livelihoods, etc. So in this specific, I want to take you through two levels. We're doing a lot of other different research, but also due to time. I kindly request you to mute yourself once you want to go, please. So, we're trying to mute the people that have just joined. So looking at it, here is an example that's demonstrating how the professionalization of farmers and organizations empower them to meet market requirements. So a study of 103 organizations that received a baseline and a reassessment. And what did we measure? The increase or the decrease in the total professionalization score that we calculate based on the model that Lucas just explained. What we also measure is how many loans and how much exposure, how many loans these organizations have. So we also measured the increase in loan amounts. And we see is that the more a cooperative improves its professionalism, so the more they increase their score, the chance of access to finance is getting higher. So this is very interesting information. The second observation that I would like to share with you is about the relationship between professionalization and sustainability as an outcome. What we have found by doing a case study of 220 cooperatives, we see that these cooperatives, when they increase their score on our supply dimension, which that they have better access to inputs, better quality inputs as well, that the chance that they are more sustainable is also higher. So there is a significant positive correlation between the supply dimension that we measure, between access to inputs, and between sustainability. So professionalizing organizations, in this case on supply, can be also very important to make them more sustainable. What our initial finding is confirming, and I keep repeating myself a bit, that we want to achieve certain outcomes like sustainability, access to finance, but also productivity, for example, professionalism of farmers and the organizations in key. And at the time, what I started at the beginning of the presentation with, there are a lot of challenges that we have to deal with. We operate in very difficult contexts. Farmers are not always ready. Efforts are fragmented. It's difficult to prove impact. It's difficult to work efficiently, to find the right partners. So that raises the question, what are the key secrets to implementing farmer professionalization successfully? And I want to share these three key secrets with you, because at Scope Insight, we have been working very hard to provide solutions to these challenges and help you achieve these goals. So the first key secret is to have the right measurement tools and systems that allows you to get insight in farmer needs and also continuously improve your approach, use standardized data to make better informed decisions. We have different types of solutions for this. We provide assessment tools for different types and also levels of organization based on the model Lucas explained. We can use our program staff to become assessors, certify them, but we also give a range of different data insight reports and workshops to help you to integrate this data effectively in your organization. Second secret we think that would help you to implement farmer professionalization successfully is to have right capacity building programs, which are needed to advance farmer professionalism, but also to empower them to meet these market requirements, institutions, investors, but also other types of service providers. For example, can help you to map your approach against our model, map your curricula, or other tools that you may be working with. In addition, together with IFC, who is a strategic partner of Scope Insight, we have the Agribusiness Leadership Program, That's a curriculum, standardized curriculum developed by IFC that's completely aligned to our way of working and our model, and it can be accessed through AI. And I'm the platform that we have initiated, where a lot of like-minded partners come together and are working on a harmonized approach to farmer professionalization, integrating all these secrets into their organization. The third is, and this is the most important one actually, is to have the right stakeholder management. So then stakeholders around a common language and a common approach on farmer professionalism. And this is also where we see that the most challenges are because generally in programs you work together with a lot of different stakeholders that have different interests. So here Scope Insight can support you with convening these stakeholders using our standardized model, but also helping you to have the right procedures and the right quality management in place for the program, and also training your program staff. See that these three secrets and combining them in the right way can really revolutionize the impact that we make. Make us much more cost efficient. It can reduce your risk, enhance synergies, and really, strengthen your position. And maybe mention one example which is quite interesting to make it a bit more concrete how this impact and these benefits can materialize. Worked with an organization that was doing a program in Asia, and they were working already for years with 20 different SMEs in the agricultural sector in this case. And very interested in our approach, and we started working together, and we had a baseline assessment of their organizations. And by the surprise, these organizations still scored quite low after having been trained for a long time. But what was very interesting is that when they sat at the table, shared the findings of the assessment with these organizations and started discussing their development plan, it turned out that 75% of these organizations were not interested and not have even the willingness to change or to become more professional because they had other priorities. So the organization decided not to focus on these 20 organizations, but only to continue with the 25% that had willingness to change and was willing to work on these priorities. And in that way, allocated their resources more efficiently, also show much more impact when the reassessments were done. In addition, we see that an increasing amount of donors, but also types of funders are supporting this approach. So we also really see that it creates very interesting funding opportunities and can help you to strengthen your position. So moving already a bit to the end of this webinar, we are interested to explore the potential of combining geodata, which is the main topic that most of you are working on, with Scope Insight data on farmer professionalism. And this is something that is very new, that has never been done before. And we see that there is really interesting geodata on weather, market and pricing information, pest and diseases, water availability, etc. And combining this with our data on farmer professionalization, but also yield metrics, the financial metrics and ratios that we collect, we have a lot of benefits and opportunities that arise. So I put a very short example to show you and make it a bit more concrete what kind of opportunities to translate into. So here plotted different types of organization, and it's a fictional example, and how they score on their external risk dimension. And this is well aware these organizations are of the external risks that they face in agriculture and how passionate they are in this respect. So plotted it against weather information. So we could see that organizations that score very well on their external risks but are based in high drought areas need a different approach probably that organizations that are already more professional and score very high and are located in low drought risk areas. So by combining this data, and this is only an example, it will allow us to get much more comprehensive insights in the needs of farmers, but also the risks that they are facing. It will allow you to build more efficient, but also more targeted interventions, and in the end, really also professionalize these organizations and prepare them to up and also in the future pay for geodata solutions. Last, I think it's very interesting if this data can be combined and it can be shared with financial institutions and other investors, because we believe that it's an interesting insight in the risk that they are facing and can really help them to reduce their transaction costs, but also to reduce their risks. So we're looking for partners to innovate and test this combined approach. As I already said, it's quite new. If you're interested and this appeals to you, appeals to you, please feel free to contact us, and we're very interested to continue this discussion. So coming to the webinar, we've shared a lot of information with you in a very short period of time, and we are very well aware of that. So you can imagine that you wonder is, how does this relate to my objectives? How does this compare with what I'm doing? How can I integrate this into our programs? And you have any more questions? So what I'd like to affirm, help you find answers to these questions and really see also what we can do for you implementing this approach to farmer professionalism. So this is a limited offer. Right now you will see a poll appearing the right side of your screen. You can already indicate if you would like to be contacted or you're not interested yet, but you would like to be subscribed to our newsletter and be updated in that way. So please indicate your interest on the right side of the screen. It's an anonymous poll, so we will not share it with the rest of the webinar. But after this webinar, we will contact you immediately to plan this meeting.
Yeah, I see people responding. Thank you so much.
Great.
So I believe this, we have time for some questions, Aline. Is that true?
Yeah, just being mindful of the time, because I like to leave a lot of time for questions. I just wanted to mention it. So as I already said in the beginning, we're working on a very large number of projects in different countries and regions, and we see there are a number of mistakes, lessons learned that recur when professionalizing farmers and their organizations. I want to go into detail now on this, but I would like to refer you to our site, and you can also click in the screen, and then you will be linked immediately to an article that we wrote about that. If you have any questions about this, always feel free to email me or Lucas and contact us for a call or a meeting. So thank you very much. I would like to leave it at that, and would like to open the floor for any questions or comments that may be there.
We have more minutes, if I'm correct, for some questions for you or myself. Please yourself if you have a question, or write it in the chat. See?
Yeah, I will share the link in the chat.
We will share the link in the chat. Our apologies. Thank you for pointing out our questions that you have for us. Or Ali, can we ask you to respond, please? Are you online, Ali, from GAW? Ali?
Before you...
Can you?
We do now, yes. Ali.
Okay. Thanks very much. Yeah, just a short command. I'm Ali Bakker from the Netherlands Space Office, and we are involved in implementing this geodata for agriculture program. I think that your way of approaching the main task to improve food security can help a lot. And why? I think that creating an enabling space to improve the farmers' capability of taking the new services, because I think that geodata and organizing the services in a proper way is quite a job, is a tough job, and that's also what we are facing. So, and the program is talking about the information, is talking about the information chain, and of course, the chain should be closed from sites up to the farmer. And for that purpose, I think you cannot only look at the technical approaches which we do mostly concern when we talk about the geodata. It has to be considered that the uptake of the farmer is very important. And I think that your support that. And I think it is not only that the existing projects could benefit from it, but it could be so beneficial for coming projects. So for that reason, I'm very pleased that you are offering this kind of information and development.
Thank you so much, Adi. That's very much appreciated. And we agree absolutely. The great inventions and innovations that your program is initiating and accelerating, could have more impact if it's combined with the. We're absolutely agreed. Are there any questions for us or for Adrie? And we have sent around the correct link. Our apologies that it didn't work. We will immediately correct it for the second webinar, but it is on the chat. Are there any questions for us? Please unmute yourself.
Or a question in the chat, if that's easier.
Yeah, I have a couple of more minutes because we are very eager to stay within time. And then, well, we want to end, thank you because quite a few people have clicked on the poll and have shown that they're interested for follow-up and or for perhaps not now, but then the newsletter. I see, Vincent, you have oh, you don't have any audio. Okay, so please write the question, Vincent. I believe geodata can have the biggest impact in register scope inside or in general. Vincent? In the farming. Oh, I don't consider us an expert in this field. I think what Elena mentioned at the very beginning, there are that's okay, Vincent, for your audio. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. But geodata, if you interpret that as market information, soil information, weather information, geodata indeed, or satellite data, and link turning that into services for farmers, and linking that to the farmers who actually are ready for it and know how to use it, because they are the more mature ones, the impact is significant. So I think it will help. Our data is showing, for example, if we help farmers to professionals and they can have better access to inputs, meaning seeds or fertilizers, things like that, and some of your data can be seen as enabling for that as well, then we see them having also a bigger chance for having access to finance or being able to be more sustainable. So I would say there are quite a number of impact areas that we would like to explore with organizations like yourself to see how we can have the best impact. But we strongly believe that these two things need to come together: your innovative services and data with those who are ready for adaptation and ready to implement it. I hope that is an answer to your question. And yes, sorry, thank you, Vincent. Are any other questions for us or Adrie from G4AW? In the case,
let me add one thing, Lucas. And,
please.
I think when it comes to impact of geodata, you already mentioned that it is a combination. And I think, and I talked already about it, it's about information. It's about information services. And just to get that in an environment in which the uptake can be as, let's say, effective as possible, the awareness of all farmers is very important. And I think that, and we found out that if you look to the project at present, which are being implemented already for several than 2 years, one important factor is also, and that is just about the general agricultural practice. So for that reason, I think you can't ignore or you cannot be just think when you services, the farmer is already to get all that opportunities into practice. So I think it is a matter of looking into the, let's say, enabling environment to get that organized. And of course, there will be already a lot of, let's say, approaches which could be done and brain the and things like that. But I think to have a kind of a check if you are already right road to do implementation could be, I think, a nice kind of and good supporting action to get your, let's say, all kinds of implementing activities in the right shape and into the right direction.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Adrie. Very well spoken. All right. I'm afraid it's time. We promised 45 minutes and we want to deliver. I want to thank you again, first of all, Adrie, G4AW, for well, your excellent program, but also for giving us the opportunity to present our concept. Thank you so much. Also, thank you for your contributions now. And we would like to thank all the participants. You registered in good numbers. We hope it was interesting for you, also with the information that we shared with you, learning more about Scope Insight and the article about the 10 most common made mistakes when professionalizing farmers. Please read it because these mistakes really are everywhere. And we have learned that they are probably the biggest stumbling blocks in us delivering on our outcomes. So it's worth reading it, and if you want to know more about how to prevent it, we are building a whole quality system on how to work with partners, how to set up the right governance structure, what are the checks and balances, the order. We call it the perfect route. If you are interested in that, please let us know. Happy to tell you about it. We hope to partner with some of you to start exploring ways where our combined services will actually make a real difference for farmers and, of course, for your own business as well. Thank you so much for your interest. We have another webinar next week. Eileen, when is that?
Wednesday.
Next week, Wednesday. If you believe that some of your colleagues or other organizations that you know could benefit from learning about this, please register for that or send us an email. Happy to register that for the next webinar. For now, thank you so much. We'll now be ending this call.